Okay,
There we are.
we are recording officially. Hi, visiting angels. Hello,
Hi,
angels.
everyone.
Judy and I are having a discussion about logging, and we think it's really important because it can get really confusing, particularly when it comes to administrating medication. So we are going to attempt to record this so that you can all watch it. Hopefully we answer some questions. Hopefully you learn some things that you didn't know. Bear with us with the technology. Even though we've been doing this for 2 months, we learn something new every day. So Judy, do you want to take over?
Yeah. I want to kind of start with that. When it comes to medication, there's a lot of confusion, and many of you are really good at saying, okay, man in the moon, don't forget to take your medication. Starlight is wandering around the house or getting ready for breakfast, and now she's sitting down at the table, and you may bring that little container, those medication containers or something, and then they'll say, okay, now don't forget to take your pills. And you can bring it to them, you can open up the cover, you cannot dump them out. That's administration. You cannot do that. In the state of Minnesota, the standards are a bit higher than many other places. You cannot administer medications without my okay, because what you're doing in the home is under my license, so you need my permission. So you can remind them, you can do a jumping jack, you can use a bullhorn, you can dance with them first, whatever you need to do. For some people, the person that they live with already has the pills out on a napkin. Push the napkin over and just say, don't forget your pills. Starlight, here you go. And then you cannot make them take it. You can remind them up and down. You cannot put it in their spoon for them. That's administration. They have to be able to take it out of the bottle or pour it out of the bottle or take the pill out of the bottle. You can undo the cap. You cannot administer the medication.
Hey, Judy.
Yeah.
How do I know when I'm allowed to administer medication versus a doctor?
Thank you. That's where it gets a little tricky, because you need my permission to give the medication, to administer medication. Now, many people are coming home many people in this year of COVID-19, they need a lot of help at home, and the families are tired or they need help because they want the person to be at home. They're not being allowed to visit like in a facility or the hospital or wherever. So they say, we want to be part of this, so we will want man in the moon to die at home. Got it. They'll say, but we want to sleep at night. We need help administering medications. Okay, all right. That means that I have to get permission from the hospice people and the doctor and get a list of medications. There's all these legal things I need to go through. And then I can set up a documentation system, our MER, Medication Administration Record, in the home. Now you'll learn about this by ERSP, or I'll hopefully send out a text and just say, there are medications to be administered.
Okay, so the big red light for our caregivers, the big stop sign, is if we don't have that specific documentation or there's not ERSP notes indicating that it is okay for you to administer medication, which Judy, you defined, pushing it over on a napkin, but unscrewing and pouring out in your hand, that is administering. Having it in a napkin or pulling open the med box and handing it, that's a reminder.
That's a reminder.
But if it's crushed up and put in their applesauce and then you feed the applesauce, that's administration. So I think sometimes what happens with our caregivers is they get in the home, and I know this happens because we get the calls at the office sometimes, and they say, well, I'm supposed to give this morphine at 4 o'clock. And we're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why are you giving morphine? Well, the hospice nurse told me, or the family draws it up.
Yeah, yeah.
If
Mhm.
Judy hasn't given you the okay, if there's any doubt in your mind, if we don't have that specific log sheet that we're going to show you, you cannot, the family is not permission. Hospice for you is not permission.
Correct.
So, and if you are uncertain, if you are feeling panicky and say, I have to call the office, I'm unsure about this, do it.
Call the office. Yes.
Call the office.
Yep.
Call,
Yep.
call. That would be a reason to call.
Yes. Yep.
You're
You're never going to go wrong by double checking.
double check if you're confused. We're trying on our end. Know that you're getting direction from a lot of people. So we're hoping that this clears it up. So, sorry, Judy, to interrupt you.
No, that's good. So you know when you have permission is when you're going to see a white binder that says medications on it for Man in the Moon or for Starlight, who's ever out there, okay? So you're gonna go, oh, look it. I guess I didn't read my ERSP, but that's okay. I need to administer medications. Let me see what needs to be done. So Amy, pull up that first MAR. So you're gonna open up the binder and you're going to see maybe several pages, but one of them will look like this. It'll be for June 2020.
Judy, is it its own binder, or is it in the same blue binder? Is it separate? Is there a folder? Typically, where will they find this?
Typically, you will find it in its own white binder.
Okay.
There is an occasion like eye drops, and we have orders to do that because they don't have the fine muscle dexterity to put their drops in their eyes every morning.
Okay.
So it'll be in their blue binder.
Okay, so if it's something like medication, like the eye drops or a special lotion, you'll probably find it in the binder.
You'll probably find it in the binder.
It'll be in ERSP notes as well.
And if you don't find it in ERSP notes, let us know. We can clear that up.
So just real quick, since you brought that up, we were talking about, these are pretty common. We know that morphine and those types of things are pretty serious. But it's really interesting that you brought that up because eye drops have to have a doctor's order. So you'd still have to use this form. But so if someone asks you to put eye drops in their eyes, that's a medication. Any type of lotion, over the counter, medicated over the counter lotion, it cannot be applied without Judy's approval or this. Is there any other comment? What about Tylenol, Judy? Do I have to use this for Tylenol?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Now, if a client says, I'm having a headache, will you go get me Tylenol? Okay. You can go to the cupboard, get the Tylenol, bring the bottle to them and say, is this what?
Okay.
And they can say yes or no. You can take the cover off.
Okay.
They have to pour it out.
Okay. If they can't do that, it has to be on this record, which means there has to be one in the home.
That's right.
The nurse. And so, okay, we're looking at this sheet. Now go ahead and explain it to me.
Okay. So you look at the sheet and you can look at the column on the far left. You see, oh, he gets morphine 10 milligrams every 6 hours. Okay. And below that, you see that it's for pain, anxiety, or sometimes it's shortness of breath.
Okay.
But this is why he takes it. Okay.
Okay.
So it is now, today is the 16th. So you see in the very top row, days of the days of the month.
Yep.
So on the 16th at midnight.
Okay, because that's when it's scheduled.
Yep. Okay. So you write in the time, 12 o'clock.
AM, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You guys are getting the idea.
Okay.
And then below that, in the next row, you'll write 10 milligrams, 10 mg. That's how much you're giving.
Okay. Again, I'm writing with this weird mouse pencil. But
Yep. And then on the third row, you'll write your initials.
okay. So I already have a question. Sometimes we heard in the other phone call that hospice has their own documentation that they use. Did you
Yes.
find out supposed to be documenting on other companies' documentations?
I recommend no. That's out there for the family to use when they give the medication.
Okay.
You are out there hired as a visiting angel under the license of Comprehensive Care Visiting Angels.
Okay.
If they want a record, they can have a copy of this.
Okay.
But this is our record.
Okay. And if you have any problems with that, again, call the office. Don't get in an argument with other companies. That's not your job. You just say, I have very strict orders that I'm only allowed to document on Visiting Angels documentation.
Yep.
And it's super simple. You give us a call. Just say, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. That is to protect you and to be a cohesive team and do things properly. So that was a really important note. So just when I go back over this, I see that this Man in the Moon guy, you filled that in, right, Judy? These aren't they are custom made to every client.
That's right.
Somebody else might have like a patch. What are those patches called?
Yeah, no patches.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no patches. Okay. So they might have morphine 15 milligrams and the times are 2 a.m., whatever, right? So everybody's going to look different. But again, you told me it looks like this says noon, but it really says 12 a.m. If it was 12:15, I would do 12:15.
Correct.
What if it was 1 o'clock? Is that okay to still put that here?
Okay, that means that no. Because what it is, these are the medications that are scheduled.
Okay.
But you notice that the Man in the Moon is a little more restless.
Okay.
Is trying to crawl out of bed. Maybe seems a little more short-winded, and just things aren't quite right. Your next job is to call the hospice nurse. What do I do? I gave the morphine an hour ago, and it doesn't seem to be working. Then you go, the hospice nurse will tell you, he or she may tell you, okay, let's give more morphine at this time. Because you can give it every hour as needed.
Okay.
So today is the 16th. So you find the Man in the Moon, 2020. You've called the hospice nurse. The hospice nurse has said, okay, give more morphine. It might be Ativan, it might be Haldol, it might be something else. But you find, okay, here's the morphine. I'm giving at the time, 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. And the amount you're giving is 10 milligrams because you went to the refrigerator and you found the baggie full of all the syringes that the nurse has already drawn up. You're not allowed to draw it up. The hospice nurse has to draw it up. And then you sign your initial.
Okay, so I just have a question.
Yeah.
My question is, okay, so when it's a scheduled dose, when we go back up here, when we go and it's a scheduled dose, let's say I forgot or they were sleeping and I didn't want to wake them up. So I skipped 12, but then it was 1 a.m. Am I allowed to do that? Or when it's a scheduled, I have to wake them up and at least attempt?
And then this is where it gets tricky.
Okay.
That I recommend that you give the 12 o'clock dose because you want to stay ahead of the pain.
Okay.
So it's a liquid form. They don't necessarily need to be woken up. You can take the syringe and stick it in the corner of their mouth, shoot it in, and the mucous membrane absorb the medication. They don't have to swallow it.
Okay. So if at midnight, because that's the scheduled dose again, and I just gently, say, Man in the Moon, it's time for your midnight dose. Can I just, lift your head?
Yep.
And make that's grr, no, get away. I'm not going to push it, but would I put an R here for refused?
I would wait 10 minutes or 15.
Okay.
But
Okay.
after that time, then if they refuse, then put an R. You cannot make them take it.
Okay. And so now this says
Right.
every 6 hours. If they refused the midnight dose, but they woke up at 2 a.m., I still have to go to a PRN and get permission from hospice, even though I missed that 6 hour, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right on.
I think that's really important.
So you would call the nurse and say, okay, Man in the Moon refused his midnight dose. I tried it again. He absolutely would not open his lips. So I skipped it. Now you're an hour later, you're 2 hours later, and he's moaning and he wants something.
Okay.
The nurse will then give you direction. All right, go ahead and give morphine. So
Okay.
you've documented that they refused at 12 o'clock. Fine. But now it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So under the 16th,
This is the PRN, right?
this is the PRN, and you have
Okay.
called the nurse,
Okay.
and you've gotten their permission to give another dose of morphine. So now it's 2 a.m. or 1:15 or whatever it is. So 2 a.m., that's right. Hey, you're getting good. And then you gave the amount, which is 10 milligrams, or the hashtag, which is 10 milligrams.
Okay. Oh, hashtag. Yay. I like hashtags. They're easier to draw. Oh,
And then your initials.
I thought they would be easier to draw. Okay. Blip, 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 blip.
So this will now give you a record. And anyone, when you're not there, anyone can come in and see, oh, look, they refused midnight, but they needed it at 2. Okay. It gives a rhythm or an idea for the hospice nurse. What do we do?
Okay, so down here at the bottom, it wants my signature and initials.
Correct.
And I'm working with a 24-hour client, so I have a shift tonight, and I also have a shift tomorrow night. Every time I write on this, do I sign, or just if I ever?
One time.
One time. So if I did not do any PRNs, which means outside of the scheduled times,
Correct.
then I wouldn't have to sign this, only if I actually wrote on it.
Correct.
Okay. So then
Now say that the man in the moon is still healing, and you come back in 2 days, and now you're going to look at this MAR and you go, oh, it's no longer 10 milligrams, now it's 20. You need to look very carefully because this can change. So how much morphine do I give? And now you're going to trust that the new dose of morphine is correctly drawn up and in the refrigerator.
Ugh.
Because it is the responsibility of the hospice nurse to make sure that the medication drawn up is correct.
So are we going to have a new one of these sheets?
Then we'll have a new one of these sheets.
Okay. So if the dose is 20 milligrams and I still have a 10 milligram sheet, I shouldn't be logging on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So even though it's asking me again how many milligrams, and I'm just reiterating 10, this would not be where I'd write 20. This should match this.
Correct.
Okay. So that's important, I think.
Yep. Yep.
So, okay, well, I think I got it. I'm not sure that I had any other questions from our call. Judy, did we have, it was the hospice was a big question.
The hospice was the big question.
Yeah.
And the MAR, and then sometimes like with eye drops or a cream that you put on an elbow, that'll be probably in the blue binder.
Okay.
And TED socks or ace wraps or compression socks.
Okay.
Again, that's therapeutic and that needs a doctor's order. Here's the caveat on that. You don't need to document that.
Okay. That's interesting. Is that the only thing that you can think of that falls in that exception is the TED stock?
Yep.
But still note that if you're putting on or taking off TED socks, there should be something in ERSP that directs you to do so. If that's not in the care plan, that means the nurse potentially does not know about it.
Yep.
And she has to. So again, ding, ding, ding. Look at the care plan. If TED stocks aren't marked as part of your responsibility, you cannot do it unless you talk to Judy, the nurse.
Right. Right.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
I understand, you know, when hospice is involved, and typically you're going to see these types of medications when well, you are, right? You're not going to
Yep.
ever see morphine and hospice isn't involved. But
Correct.
what if the eye drops that you talked about, or Tylenol? Well, I was going to say, you know, if those were PRN, but that wouldn't be the case because Tylenol, you can't take more than every 4 hours and your sheet's going to do 4 hours. So you shouldn't be giving second mid doses of Tylenol, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood that.
And I think for those of you that have worked a lot with hospice in the home, and you know that when people are actively dying, when things are changing very rapidly, that it's really hard to keep up with stuff. So you're going to see me a lot, and you'll be talking with me a lot, and that is expected. That's normal.
Okay. So I was just going to show the other document real quick. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time with it because this is your regular daily activity log. And I see medication treatments.
Medication reminders.
And I see, okay, medication / treatments. And I have medication reminders, and you're not putting times on here. You're just saying yes
Or no.
Okay, you either gave a reminder or not.
Correct.
So for medication reminders, you wouldn't put an RF for refused, right? Because that's not your job. For under reminders, it's either yes or no. You either gave the reminder or you didn't.
Or you didn't. Yep.
This is not where you write they wouldn't take it.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Just making sure. Is there any error that you want to point out?
No, you know, in general, people are doing a really good job of filling this out. That you put the client name, the date, the time you were there, the time range, say from 8 to 10, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., and what you did. Because we have to create a paper trail for us and for insurance and for our records of what we did and were we there. It's a way to prove what we're doing.
Okay.
So it's real. I know documentation is burdensome. I know it is, but it's really important.
Okay, so the client name, I was trying to, the date, super
The date,
important.
yep. And then the time you were there.
Yep. And then, what else here?
And then whatever you did.
Okay, whatever you did. And then at the bottom, making sure.
Do initial and then sign your name.
And remember that logging is a weekly thing. So, you know, new or not, it's hard to keep up with all of our clients. Sometimes you're just filling in for somebody and you don't know this person or this schedule, but I cannot be more clear. Today is the 16th. So if I'm looking at this log and I see June 8th, you know, May 31st, someone logged on June 8th, someone logged, you cannot log on that. It's 1 week, Monday through Sunday. You need to make sure that you are starting a new log. Even if this log sheet only has one column. What a waste of paper, right?
You got it.
It is what it is. There's lots of reasons that go behind that, including state licensure requirements, and there's long-term care. So your responsibility, and now because we're not bringing logs in and you're mailing them, it's super easy. The person, give the person before you a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And throw it in the mail for them, even if it's a Wednesday. It doesn't have to be Friday. All you know is it was last week's log. So
Yep.
that's
Yep.
today. So I think that's important.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Yeah, and one of the questions, the notebook that people are writing on, you guys are doing a great job. It's giving me, or the nurses here in the office, kind of an idea, okay, well, what's happening in the home? Like we have a client that every morning gets his paper at Quick Trip. Okay, we know that that's a priority and we need to get that done. Or I don't know, that was just an example of that.
No,
I like to read them. It's not like I study them intensely, but I like
right.
to read them and I go, oh, look, they're still refusing a shower. Man, what can we do about this? Or we put something in place and, okay, all right, that's going a little better now. Excellent. The
Right.
white
And
logs, be careful what you write because the family can read them. Don't get opinionated in there. Like,
right.
the man in the moon sure wasn't shining very bright tonight. What in the world is going on? Is there an eclipse in his world? Ding, 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 ding. Don't.
It's also not a time to complain about the caregiver before you.
Yeah.
I've seen things where it's like somebody needs to learn how to make the bed, or nobody vacuums around here. It is not a place to passive aggressively or aggressively talk to other caregivers. If you have an issue with the care at the home, for any reason, whether it's another caregiver or you're just frustrated, that is a ERSP message to nursing, period.
Yep.
End of discussion. That does not go in. We are also not leaving notes for the family in that book.
Nope.
It is it's more information than this daily activity log, but it's really to help people out, family out, like to kind of read that, like she likes to read it. And as another caregiver, we don't want to be spending 15 minutes talking to each other at change of shift about a client who may be in the other room. So I want to read that they refuse to eat, or that seems a little down today, or not quite their self, but you're not saying super confused because, or maybe you are saying super confused. You just, like Judy said, you just have to be careful.
Yep, be careful.
You want to read that about yourself, whatever you're writing,
Yep.
About that.
And although it's not a legal document, it's a communication.
Right.
So be careful what you're communicating.
Correct. So on the other call that we talked about, we kind of in with logging, Judy and I spoke about how we might someday in the near future go to electronic logging.
Yeah.
If we do go to that, we're looking at getting into testing. But if we do go to that, it would be when you clock in and out, and you do that by the phone. And that's where, instead of writing and, medications actually will never go to the phone. Well, not in ours.
Yeah.
But so that medication log we went over today, that's not going that way. But just your regular daily activity log might in your time before the end of 2020. And just want to talk real quickly about clocking in and out, that we're all using our own phone, not the client's phone. Want to make sure that we are clocking in when we are in the client's home.
Yep.
So not in the parking garage. Not in the driveway, not in the lobby while you're getting screened. Okay. You clock in when you are physically in the client's home. There are
through the threshold of the door.
Yep. There are very few exceptions to that, but I do know that there are some. Like in some situations, you don't go into the client's home and you're picking them up at the door.
Right.
Or
right.
Start your shift at Hy-Vee. Those are the exceptions. Otherwise, you better be in the client's home.
Yep.
Same thing when you leave. You clock out from your phone. Last thing you do before you leave. You don't clock out and then hang around for 15 minutes talking to the family or talking to the other caregiver. So if you need help with that, we can help you, but actually you're breaking some labor laws and some kind of, you're dancing on a very tricky platform when you stay in the home. Some people say, well, I need to talk to the other caregiver about what happened. 5 minutes. If you're not going to be able to communicate in 5 minutes to that other caregiver, you should probably call the office and tell us what's going on, and we'll help you out with that. Because we've seen conversations about other clients happening in the home, or we've had clients overhear what the caregivers are talking about. It's not the time. It's not the place. You cannot be in the home and off the clock. I cannot make that more clear. You cannot be in the home and off the clock. Period. So, and you got to be conscious of those times. So important. So if you're talking to a family, simply just look at your watch. You know, it's 5 o'clock. You know, I better get going. I don't want you to get charged for more time. So we can help you with that if it becomes a problem, but I just think that's an important thing on logging and being clear, because if, for example, you wrote on the legal documentation that you left at 5 and at 5:15 the client had a fall and you helped the family pick her up, that's a problem. So
where does liability fall?
Right. So you need to understand we're not trying to be the bad guy. It's for a reason. There's reasons. And then the other thing real quick is just mileage. When you travel with or for a client, you can claim miles, and you do that on the phone. And it'll ask you to enter the miles, and you either enter, you figure out how far it took to get, you know, client Man on the Moon to Mayo's appointment. It was 15 miles. So 15.2 there and 15.2 back is 30.4. You're going to log 30. If it said 30.7 when you added it all up, you're going to log 31. And always, when you're logging miles, you have to leave a voice comment. So if I entered miles, I'm going to follow it up with a voice comment that says my miles were for errands. My miles were for a medical appointment. My 30 miles were for a medical appointment. I entered 30, I meant to enter 3. So,
Or they wanted to go for a drive to see the fall leaves.
You don't have to tell us every single stop you made. Just simple errands, fall, scenic drive. That's all just fine. But to clear that up, we are not paying you miles to get from client A to client B. So only if you drive your car for a client. So if the client, you get there and they send you to Hy-Vee in your car, you get to claim those. But it's only if you drive with or for that client in your car. And the last thing, because it leads into it, you cannot drive a client's car unless you have authorization from the office to do so. So if the client says, I'd be more comfortable if we went in my car. If there's not documentation in ERSP that says permission to drive client's car, you have to call the office. Stop. You can't have a client's car without that documentation. So I hope you've learned something.
And or been reminded of something, or do this just often enough that it's easy to forget, because there's a lot of information.
It is. So Judy, did we hit all your notes that you have written down?
Yes, we did.
Did we hit all the questions?
I believe so. The big thing was the compression. And again, just let me know you know, if you're putting on ACE wraps or compression socks and it's not in ERSP, then gosh, you know, I wonder if there's an order for this. Just let me
Okay.
know.
All right. So the difference between administering meds and reminders, we hope that we've cleared that up. If you need to think in your head, what did she say about the difference between administering meds and reminders? Anytime we're administering, there is a special form. So any type of medication, lotion or eye drops that we are giving, which means more than just opening the top.
Yep.
If we are
Yep.
putting applesauce, if we are putting the eye drops in, if we are taking a pre-med syringe and
Yep.
putting it in the mouth,
Mouth.
that's,
Putting cream on the skin, anything.
there are two forms, there are two different log sheets, and we need to make sure that we're using the Visiting Angels medication administration log sheet. And if you don't have one, you cannot do what you're about to do without
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Use another company's sheet is not a supplement. So we are not to document on another company's
Mhm, mhm.
administration.
Yeah, and please don't, you know, you can put it in the notebook, but people have been putting it in the notebook and not on the MAR.
Okay.
It has to be on the MAR, the medication administration record.
Okay. And then we talked about clocking in and out, not staying past your time with your clients, staying on the clock when you're in the home. And we talked about mileage quickly, driving other client cars, what we put in the spiral notebook, making sure those log sheets are turned in on a weekly basis, don't continue to log. And I think that's all we covered. Is that right?
I think so. You know, that's, you know, what I wanted to drive home was the documentation. Burdensome, but it has to be done. And
Okay.
it needs to be done correctly or everything can go amok.
Okay. And so then to get credit for this video, you have to take the test.
You got to take the test.
Got to take the test.
So
So
once you've watched this, you can email me or zip me or something and I'll get the test to you.
Yep.
But I know Abby is working really hard at setting up a window or cloud or file or something to you can download the
access it on your own. But until then, if you watch this video and you don't have access to the test, you need to ERSP message Judy, or you can add me if you want, just in case she misses it. But that is the best way. So you can call, but we would prefer you sent an ERSP message that said, hey, I watched the video on logging and I would like to take the test. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for coming, everybody.
If you have any questions, give us a call.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. The medication stuff is tricky. I know it.
It is. So
I'll explain it 1,000 times if I need to.